I guess we need to wait till there we go.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so there we go. All right, here's our welcome slide to everybody that's here. We are very glad you're here. My name is Jeremy Shibley. I'm one of the geometry teachers this year. I thoroughly enjoy teaching geometry, but teaching it in a virtual setting is certainly going to be uncharted territory for me. I expect there will be challenges and surprises, but my students and I'm confident that we'll work together and grow together despite any obstacles we may encounter. And I'm very eager to meet my geometry classes next week.
I'm Brenda Fullerton. I am another one of the geometry teachers. Two of the teachers, Mr. Roit and Mrs. Oh, I think Miss Hendrickson's might be here, and if she is, I'll have her stop in and say hello. But Mr. Roit is heading the IB math meeting right now, and he hasn't learned how to duplicate himself. But he's been teaching geometry for a long time. And then I'm teaching it second quarter. And like Mr. Shibley said, this is the virtual world is new, and I know me and my students will persevere and learn together. And then Lene, are you here?
Yes, I am, if I can figure out how to unmute myself.
There we go.
Yeah, so I am Lene Henriksen, and I'm actually going to be working alongside Mrs. Fullerton as a student teacher. So I am super excited for that. So I'll just kind of be there for a lot of different things, hang out with things, doing all sorts of fun things, I guess. But yeah, really looking forward to that and to meeting everybody and getting to do some really exciting stuff throughout the year. So.
She'll be a great addition to our virtual world.
All right, here's our major topics for semester 1 slide. As you can see, we're basically going to do 4 topics, roughly over 8 or 9 weeks. The first unit is called Transformations, and that deals with objects like reflections and translations and rotations, what those words mean. We will learn how to represent them visually in the coordinate plane, and we'll learn how to write them algebraically using coordinate rules. So it'll be a nice connection between geometry and algebra in that topic. The second topic, lines and angles, I'm sure you have some familiarity with, like parallel lines, perpendicular lines, right angles, obtuse angles, but there are more things we're going to learn, like angle relationships such as vertical angles, the kind of angles that are formed when lines are parallel, like alternate interior angles or corresponding angles. So lots more relationships to learn about lines and angles. The third topic is triangles, and we'll learn properties like the triangle sum theorem, relationships between interior and exterior angles in a triangle, a theorem called the triangle inequality theorem, understanding what congruent means in terms of rigid motions. We'll learn several triangle congruence tests and the criteria used to determine when triangles are congruent. And the last topic will be quadrilaterals and their properties. We'll do a lot of work with parallelograms and their properties like adjacent angles are supplementary. We'll discuss and explore conditions that guarantee when a quadrilateral happens to be a parallelogram, like the diagonals bisecting each other. We'll use slope from algebra to determine if a quadrilateral happens to be a rectangle, for example. So those are the 4 major topics, and that will easily fill our time for this first quarter. So even though it says semester 1 there, you probably realize that this class is going to cover a semester's worth of material during this first quarter time slot. So we're going to get through all these topics by early November. And then the next slide is much shorter. Just if you're curious about supplies, we're going to basically just go back to basics here. We highly recommend, require actually, that you have a notebook to be able to write in and some kind of writing implement. I like pencil for math myself. We do recommend that you have some kind of a handheld scientific calculator. When we're actually in school, the calculators that we make available to our students are a Texas Instrument model called the TI-30XS multi-view scientific calculator. It's a very user-friendly and very functional scientific calculator. So if you want to consider getting that, you can. But we'll talk more about calculators next week. We will also be learning how to use a software program called Desmos that has a free graphics display calculator embedded in it. And that's used with assessments like the ACT, the SAT, Oregon's Essential Skills Test. So it'll be very helpful for students to get acquainted with what Desmos is all about this year.
So our schedule, depending on what period you have, this slide just shows a sample schedule for somebody who has geometry, period 1. All students will have 2 synchronous, that's live, 1-hour classes twice a week, and that'll either occur in the morning of Monday, Thursday, or the morning of Tuesday, Friday. Teachers will then have office hours immediately following these live classes. So students can, if they have a question or something that sometimes if you leave a class and you go about your day, you forget. So this will help them get their questions answered right away. It'll also help the teacher plan for the next class. Students will also have 2 asynchronous classes. These are recorded slide classes, and that'll happen for 1.5 hours twice a week. And there are suggested times for those classes. However, students can do them at their convenience. If they're really early morning people and want to do it 5 a.m., they can, or if they're evening people. But that is 1.5 hours twice a week. Teachers have general office hours on Wednesday from 10:45 to 11:45, and Wednesday are the students' applied learning time, and the morning is when they also have their community and connections class. So what will a live or synchronous class look like? Again, it's 1 hour, 2 days a week. Those classes will have entry questions, mini lectures, live questions and answers, discussions, breakout rooms. This is where the teacher will take the whole class and have them go into smaller groups so they can discuss math problems and not be lost in the sea of the 35 people chat. It's also for social emotional support. This is a time for us to connect with our math students. It's time to hear from them. So with that, community building, and then most math classes will probably end with some sort of an exit question to help lead what is going to happen in future classes. And then in the asynchronous classes, there are 1.5 hours, 2 days a week. You'll have practice problems, feedback. You'll be watching videos. Some of the videos is called like a flipped classroom, and that's where you get the lesson. And then you come to the live classroom and you get your questions answered, or you get extensions based on that video. There might be responses to frequently asked questions. There may be technology tutorials to get you ready for a live class, and formative assessments, which are assessments that help you know what you understand, help the teachers know what you understand, and help lead for future learnings. So,
All right. Let's see here. All righty. How do I access extra help in my math class? Definitely reach out to us as soon as you think you'd like to seek extra help. It's very important to do that. As Brenda just mentioned, we have office hours that immediately follow the synchronous classes, as well as that general office hour on Wednesdays. We're still trying to think about how most effectively to use that Wednesday office hour time slot to make sure we can help as many students and families that request help then. Email is a very good way to reach out to get extra help. Teachers do have their regular school phone, and we just, me personally, I'm going to have to really train myself to regularly try to access any voicemail that's left on the phone in my classroom since I'm not there. So definitely for me, the best way to reach out is through email. And also Google Classroom has good, efficient ways for students to actually message their teachers and to ask questions and request feedback. There's lots of good extra help opportunities out there. Also, there'll be online resources that teachers may reference their students, like Khan Academy. We're still trying to figure out how best to use the online feature of our district adopted textbook for geometry. It has useful helps and videos and extra practice, but sometimes in the past, students and teachers have found that a little bit cumbersome. So we're still trying to work out how best to use that resource.
So I guess now this is a time, if you guys have questions, you can type them in the chat. Or if it's easier, unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hello, do you have a question? Yeah, I don't have a sense of how many people out there are students or parents, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions. Now is a great time.
Will students have access to the recordings of the lectures?
If you miss a class, you will be able to access it through your Google Classroom. Yes.
Yeah, teachers are expected to record all of their live synchronous classes, and we have to post them on our Google Classroom so people that are absent for whatever reason will be able to access those.
How do absences work?
We are still getting guidelines from the state, and as of our staff meeting this morning, Mr. Richardson said as soon as he knows, we will know. We do know we are taking attendance. Just the logistics of it, we're not sure of yet.
How will the attendance system actually work in the first place?
Well, yeah, we're unsure about that. There's going to be some kind of a procedure built into Synergy where teachers, I believe, are supposed to, at this point anyway, post attendance by the end of that day that synchronous class is held. And that's all we know really right now. Attendance will be taken.
What's Khan Academy?
That's Brenda, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's an online help website. I don't know if is it more than just math?
I think it's just math.
Okay. But it has a lot of math topics, videos. Is very helpful. A lot of students find it helpful. Teachers, when we taught distance learning last spring, sometimes we found it helpful to actually put links in our lessons to different videos on Khan Academy to help students be introduced to topics. There are practice problems on there where you can try them and then check your work. It's a very helpful website for math.
So a couple of questions before they get lost. What will tests and quizzes look like? Quizzes are just formative assessments to see what you know, and so the teacher can see what you know and you can personally see what you've learned. And so those will probably typically look the same as you've had in the regular class, assignments, little quiz checks, depending on how your teacher does that. As far as formal assessments, we are still working with the math department to see what that's going to look like. But your teacher will communicate with you before your first assessment, so you will know what to expect. And then I lost another question.
Yeah, there was one question about how do I get one-on-one help and where do I go? That would be back on that previous slide, Mrs. Fullerton.
Okay. Do you happen to know the slide number? Let's see.
I do not.
Right there, office hours. But that is for period 1.
Yeah, go to that slide about seeking extra help.
There we go.
There we go. Probably the best way, at least for me personally, is for the student to email me. And then that student and I can, have an email exchange back and forth, trying to figure out the best way to get some help. Sometimes just having a teacher reply to a question in an email may be sufficient. Other times that student and myself might need to set up an actual Google Meets where they can talk with each other live, like in this setting here. So that'll be one nice change that's different from last spring, where everything was asynchronous. Another option, we didn't actually put it on here, I guess I just thought of that, was we also can call students using the Google voicemail. And sometimes it helps just to talk with a student on the telephone and work through a problem that way. So there are definitely several different effective ways we can use to help students get extra help.
I just saw another question about geometry and construction. So a couple of people in this meeting, I guess, are signed up for that. That is a Sabin Schellenberg course. And the couple of students I saw comment, if you just email me, I can connect you with the teacher, because you guys were my students last year. If you weren't my student last year and you want to know a little bit more about geometry and construction, I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and you can email me as well, and I will connect you with that teacher.
Yeah, there's a question there about, is geometry and construction the same topics as normal geometry?
In the past, it was. They go in a different order because they also have an applied class. It's a double class, and they actually build stuff. And so the order changes to what they need for the construction part. So I'm not familiar with the topics that you'll go over in semester 1, but I do know the topics do align.
Let's see, there's a question about, do you know what will happen for study hall? I do not personally. Do you, Mrs. Fullerton?
I made the assumption it's in their schedule. So if they have period 1 study hall, then they attend period 1. But that would be a Mr. Schulte or a Mr. Mixon's question.
Let's see, back on the topic of geometry construction, this student or someone's asking, does a student need to take geometry before taking geometry and construction? Those are two separate geometry courses. And I believe they get equivalent geometry credit,
Yes.
cover similar topics, just different format, different class structure. So if you take Geometry Rex Putnam, you will not be taking geometry and construction and vice versa.
They both satisfy the high school geometry credit. There's a question, when will our stuff be due? I think that's going to be teacher discretion. I don't think it's going to be like the spring model where you get your work on Monday and then it's all due on Friday. It's going to be a little different from that because you're actually having classes in the morning. But I'm going to say that's a question to ask your specific teacher on how they're going to collect their work.
And I expect that some teachers will probably reach out to their classes and just get some feedback on what might have worked well for students last spring and see if they can incorporate that input into how they're going to run their classes this fall. Very good questions. Anybody else have questions? Well, I think Mrs. Fullerton and I can maybe stick around for the next 5 or so minutes. And if some people want to just go ahead and leave this meeting, that's certainly fine to do. And if they think of other questions they want to ask the next few minutes, that'd be fine. Yep, the formal presentation is over. It's just answering people's questions and concerns now.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
How do we turn in assignments?
Well, the format's going to be with Google Classroom, which people got experience with last spring. That'll be the format that's used for all of your classes. And I assume things will look very similar in terms of that regard and getting feedback on assignments. Anything you want to add to that, Mrs. Fullerton?
I was answering questions in the chat.
Yeah, they just asked about how to turn in assignments.
Yeah, so that's in the Google Classroom, the little turn in button. Yeah, so geometry and construction, I do know that they had more people than they had classroom seats. And so look at your schedule. If you elected for geometry and construction, that wasn't just, you didn't automatically get the course. It's considered, I mean, it's a special course and they only have so many seats. It's never been filled in the past, but I think this year they had to randomly select, and don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I heard. So the ones that think they're in geometry and construction, look at your schedule. If you have a first quarter math class.
Yes, the orientation schedule does say that this meeting can extend to 1:45, and it can just depending on how many questions we have. But we'll make sure it goes to at least 1:30, and then we'll assess how to decide when to stop this.
Is there any special websites you're going to be using this year or no?
I don't have any in mind at the moment. I'm sure that I'm going to be learning a lot of good resource websites because we'll be starting the year off in full distance learning mode here. Yeah, I don't know any specific ones right now.
I think we're planning on dappling with, okay, say GeoGebra. Did I say that right, Miss
Oh, GeoGebra?
GeoGebra? Because we won't have our physical tools like we have in the classroom.
Right.
I just have to say it's so good to see some familiar faces.
What if distant learning doesn't work for me?
We, teacher and student, we will have to figure it out. We got this.
And we can definitely enlist other people's ideas like counselor help. Yeah, but this is what we're faced with, so we just need to make the best of it, and we're confident we can help students get through this successfully. Yeah, we just need to make it work.
It's only because I'm not really good with.
Oh, go ahead, Adam.
I find everything super confusing for some reason. Just on the computer.
Yeah. I know that my learning curve and a lot of people's learning curves are going to be pretty stretched this fall, so we just have to rely on each other and help each other a lot.
And communicate with your teacher as soon as you feel that feeling of struggle. Communicate it right away. We really, we're going to be learning with you with some of this stuff, and we'll do it. We'll get through it.
Can the teacher require you to turn on your camera?
It's encouraged, but we will not be requiring it. We want to see your faces, but recognize that there are some circumstances or sometimes that you can't have it on, and that's okay.
Let's see, there's a question here that says, so office hours are just open times to ask your teacher questions live or by email? Well, so the way it'll work is I know that the office hours that immediately follow a synchronous class, teachers will just stay on that Google Meets Hangout time, and it will just remain live for the next, is that a half hour, Mrs. Fullerton? I'm not sure.
Half hour, yes.
Okay. So that'll just remain live, and then students that want to stick around and ask questions can do that. If you're working during asynchronous time, let's say in the afternoon, and you come up with a question, then the best thing probably would be just to email right away, and then their teacher can correspond with you and figure out how best to address your question. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to do the Wednesday general office hour time slot, because I want to make sure that I answer as many questions as possible. Some teachers are thinking about figuring out a way to have just time slots that students sign up for to get help. Others are thinking about maybe having 3 different tabs on their computer open. And if you're in my geometry class, you would just go to that meeting, and I would have to toggle back and forth between different tabs to see who's showing up with questions. So I'm not quite sure yet the best way to do the Wednesday office hour. But the office hours that happen on the other days, followed by a synchronous class, those are going to be very easy and manageable.
Question, are you going to be sending the links and passwords to the Google Meets? The links to the Meets are in the Google Classroom on the top banner. And so you would just click on that. Your class has its own Meet in the Google Classroom. The other thing is, if you were to enter the class before the teacher, it will put you in a waiting room. It won't let anybody in until the teacher has entered the Meet.
Let's see, what do you do during the community class? A lot of different things. The teachers holding those classes will be provided with lesson plans each week. And I'm sure we're going to be having a variety of topics to work through, but there'll be community times, community building, just general support time, just a regular group of people you can consistently see once a week to talk with, get support from, think about how things are going. Anything you want to add to that, Mrs. Fullerton?
Nope, I think you got that. The next question is textbooks. In the past, students had a choice between a hard copy or digital. We are going digital only this year for geometry. There is no cost. And last year in geometry, we made a lot of the slides just from the actual textbook, but there is an online text program that we made Apple with as well.
Yeah, if some of your classes don't have a Google Meet link yet, that just may mean that your teacher hasn't had a chance to do that. I know that I just added my classroom Google Meet links this morning for my classes. So I would just be patient with that and keep checking the next day or two, and hopefully more classes will be populated with their links. Yes, community and connection is like a homeroom. And when you go into the Google Classroom, it actually, I think it says like period 15 or something.
It does.
But that's just like a homeroom. It's just a weekly meeting of a set group of students to get really well acquainted with each other, help support each other through this virtual learning time.
So for quarter one, you will have 4 classes. And then even though it's meeting for a quarter, it'll be a semester class. So it gives you a focus on 4 classes. And then quarter 2, you'll get a different set of 4 classes. And the second quarter, you'll earn a semester credit for those different 4 classes. And they haven't told us what's happening when the semester's over. So we don't, as of now, we don't know what the typical second semester will look like.
Let's see, how do they join their Google Classroom?
It was automatically done on mine.
Okay, that's right. So last spring, we had to send students their class codes. But this fall, at the district level, they're just populating our Google Classrooms with the students that are supposed to be in them.
Correct.
So I'm hoping that you're going to be just maybe automatically put into those classrooms. Are we going back to school? That is a great question. We do not know the answer to that. This distance learning time right now is going to go through early November. And then at the state level, I assume during October, they will assess whether it's safe for students and staff to return to schools or if they will continue distance learning some more. When I did check my Synergy classes this morning, all 3 of my classes were filled with students, so I could start seeing students' pictures. So I know that at least my classes have been filled. So if you have me for a geometry teacher, then when you go to the Google Classroom site and find our classroom, there should be a link, a meeting link for our first meeting. Well, that'll be the link that you use for every single meeting this fall. That doesn't change. That's how you'll find our class. You just go to that meeting link. All right, these are great questions. Well, we have 6 more minutes of our official meeting time. Two classes with the same meeting time. What do you think that might mean, Mrs. Fullerton? Do you think that's between like quarter 1 and quarter 2? Are they?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if they're seeing. I don't know. I don't know if they're seeing that in Synergy or.
There is a glitch right now. They're in the same quarter for me too. I know there's a glitch where it's in our teacher thing too, where and the ESD is working on it. Ray, do you happen to have me or Mr. Shibley as one of your teachers so we can look at it? Yeah, maybe we should give the link to the counseling. I think that might be a. Let's see.
So while she's trying to track that down, for the people that are still here, I just want to reiterate our appreciation for you coming to this meeting this afternoon. And I just want you to keep a positive outlook on this fall. I know it's going to be challenging and a lot of technology to learn as well as math, but we're here to help, and there are lots of good resources. A lot of good people at Putnam have great technology skills that I'll be learning from. And you're in good hands, so just stay positive and keep coming to every class. And I definitely encourage you to check out your Community and Connections class on Friday, so you can meet that group of students you'll be with the whole first quarter on.
This is just a guess. What would study hall look like in synchronous? My guess is they will be helping you with your subjects just like they do in the physical building. I know I know they help out with math a lot. I also know that they're going to be working with people who have the recovery classes from the spring.
Right. Yep,
And
that's
I
I know.
find the link for the counseling for 9th through 11.
I know that the study hall teachers definitely are very committed to helping students with math, and we'll find out ways to help you be successful with your math assignments.